What's going on, guys? How we doing? Jason, I see you there. What's going on, Proful? How we doing? Well, eventful morning we've had today. What do we want to look at first? This Bitcoin action this morning was pretty interesting. I was talking about this in the chat, in the DKS chat, and on the analysis page. And Bitcoin has been kind of putting in this supply line, this purple supply line over the last, I don't know, few days or so, week. And over the last 24 hours or so, Bitcoin's kind of just been bumping up against this. And Solana had a similar setup the other day, or yesterday actually. But going into this morning, Bitcoin was testing this range all morning, and I was kind of leaning bearish because of what happened with Solana yesterday. But this is just a really interesting area right here for a bull trap. And you can see here, clear bull break. Somebody, the composite operator, probably a bunch of shorts stacked up right here, high leverage, and then just someone, a bunch of stop losses right on the other side of this trend line, this ice line, and someone bought it up and then shoved it right back down in your face. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really like buying bull breaks. The buying down here are the levels that you want to be buying at when you have lower lows with divergence on the oscillators. Because you buy these breakouts and they get run back the other way, and if you don't have a tight stop loss, this could get nasty pretty fast. If you were buying this breakout here. Cadena, you want to look at Cadena? Okay. Bitcoin though, we'll see. It's kind of setting up this new range. We had a high at 47 and a low at 45. So, if this channel right here were to play out, we could see some downside all the way down to like the 43.5 region. But if bulls decide to step in here and fill out this pennant right here, this purple pennant, we could just remain sideways for the next 2 days, and kind of fill out this range. Something to be watching over the next couple days. Let's check out Cadena, since that was asked. Is that on TradingView or? Yeah. Okay. KuCoin, I would imagine, is probably the best chart. Let's go out to the daily. Oh wow. Okay. Let me delete that. So this is kind of interesting here because we had a huge run up and just a bunch of consolidation. And so this is kind of looking like a lot of other charts in crypto where we're getting kind of a rounding bottom, at least on the daily. The clue here was on this consolidation with the bullish divergence here. So if one were to draw a trend line, something like that, and then something like this. And so yeah, if you're watching this asset, the clue on the MACD would be you had a low, a lower low, and then a lower high, and then a lower low, but you had divergence from this point to the next. So like this. And like this. Come on, you can do it. So when you have divergences like these, this is a sign of like seller exhaustion. So when you're printing this falling wedge pattern with divergence here, and you know, you didn't have divergence on the RSI, but RSI did get, you know, down to the 25 region on the daily, which is starting to get down there. I mean, it's not in the teens or anything, but you didn't really know because there was nothing really to go off of. It's not like you had multiple points here. You know, this trend line, until you knew this bottom was in, you know, you're kind of just hunting here. So this wouldn't have been like a super good buy because there's no divergence at this point here. Yeah, you have divergence from this point to here, but you know, you could get a third drive of divergence, you know, down here to fill out this pattern. So, you know, this wasn't really your clue. The clue was here, the spring. So you put in a low, put in a higher low, and then you sprung and jumped the creek. The creek being this purple trend line. And then after you sprung, you back tested the creek once, twice, and then a third time, confirming what was resistance is now support, and now we're going sideways. So ideally, you'd want to see an impulse wave, an impulse candle out of this zone. But there are signs of accumulation on the daily because you are putting in higher lows. So as it sits right now, if you're to look at this pattern, I guess technically it's doing the same thing again, just on a smaller scale. So you have resistance, filling out the pennant, and now you're springing, back testing the spring while jumping the creek. And it'll just be interesting to see if this can get some bullish momentum from here. You know, ideally you want to see this ice line hold, this demand line hold in order to stay bullish. And like in the short term, you want to see $8.35 broken. So we can zoom in here and get a little more detail. Let's see what the 4 hours giving us here. So again, yeah, symmetrical triangle, breaking bullish, confirming, back testing this previous resistance as support. And so ideally you'd like to see this consolidation range break bullish. And again, you know, the level you want to hold is this purple demand line on this. You know, if you start breaking down here, then you're looking at much lower prices. You have a golden cross coming through, and it is back testing. It is back testing and confirming the golden cross, but you also had ones here that it was as well. So ideally, you'd like to see these moving averages start splaying up to the outside and kind of support price action as price action increases. You know, if we go in here like this, you could see another kind of pattern shipping up here. And so, you know, if you zoom out here, it's just really a lot of consolidation, right? So you're not, there's bullish things that are happening, but you really haven't seen your upwards move yet. You know, there's not really like a going out, there's not really, there is kind of a harmonic here, I guess, but that's a really lower low, you know. Let's see. Just so we can kind of see what this is. We'll start here. So this would be like a 786 retrace and a 5. It's kind of deep, you know. It could be a butterfly, which would be a 1312 extension down here. But here's the 8x6 of this range. So, after the impulse, you did have a retest of the 886, held its support. This would kind of be this $4.40 range. This is, I really want to see it hold here. But I've seen this happen a lot. You get really bullish on these like descending, falling wedges, and then price action breaks out, and then it just goes sideways, like forever. And so, TA can give you an idea of where we're at, but it can't make, buyers step in and bid up the price, right? So again, until there's more information, we're seeing a lot of sideways. And again, on the 12-hour, I would be looking for this golden cross to kind of come in here, because the last time you had a 12-hour golden cross was down here. And you can see, once you got the golden cross, it came back, it tested the 50, and then it was pretty much gone. And, this is the 85 exponential moving average, the cyan. And, that was kind of your indicator the whole way up. Well, actually, it kind of rode the 21, actually, this blue moving average. And then, as it came down to consolidate, the 50, the gold 50 held it up for a while. But then once it broke, it came all the way down to the 200, the red 200. So, if you were looking at this break of the 50, that would be your clue after this range. And, it was 12 hours. This was a 21 to 2. This was like 2 weeks, week and a half or so. So it's really nice to have these moving averages. This is the 21, this is the 50, this is the 85, the 200, and then the blue down here is the 377. And the 377 is kind of, it's your longest moving average. It tends to suck price into it over time. And, it does act as strong support. So, there could be some bullish things happening here. It definitely there's a case to be made. But you definitely want to see some bullish action here sooner than later. Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't really tell you if it's best to accumulate here, but you definitely want to look for areas where it would make sense to accumulate. So if this is, if this channel is kind of forming, that's the thing. It really all kind of depends on Bitcoin. Going back to Bitcoin, if Bitcoin's going to take the low road here, Kadena is going to get wrecked, just because everything follows Bitcoin. So, eyes really need to be on Bitcoin, and then if Bitcoin confirms, then you could be more bullish on this asset. So, let's look at baked bots. But yeah, this is breaking out a little bit, it is starting to break resistances. So definitely want to keep an eye on it. But as far as new entries at this level, I don't know. I would wait. If you're looking for entries, you could wait for hourly oversold. You could take trades off of this ice line as well, with a stop loss right underneath it. That could be an entry. So, baked bots. I haven't looked at this one yet in a while, in a couple days since I scaled into that position. Moshi heads consolidating. We'll look at that one in a minute. Baked bots. All right, so this is another one doing the same kind of deal. And there's not a ton to analyze on this, but you can see the listing amounts going down. And this thing is kind of, it did have a supply line that it's breaking out from. You could do something like that. And you have a constant level of resistance that's kind of shaping up right here. So let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. And then we have this action. So this is very similar, quote unquote, bottoming action that you're seeing on Kadena. You have the creek here. Again, Wyckoff stuff. You have the creek. You have the spring off the bottom with RSI oversold. And in NFT land, you know, RSI down here has been decent for floor swipes. You know, you can, just for little floor scalps, getting oversold, you know, can get you in a good spot. But here it was like really oversold. It was down, RSI was like in the 20s, 21. And so now you're breaking, you're jumping the creek, you back tested it, and you know, you're finding resistance looking left at prior support. So prior support, it gets lost, it comes back up, becomes resistance, and now it's being tested again as resistance again. So with baked bots, the 1.5 level for Sol is really what you want to be watching as far as the breakout is concerned. And you know, this is now forming a right-angled descending broadening wedge, and so we still need to watch price action to see what's going to unfold over the coming days. But if you wanted to take a price target from a formation like this, you could, you know, this is probably a little too wide because we're not there yet, but you could bring this in here. And I like to make these gold just so I can see them. So you could do something like that. And what does that line up with looking left? It lines up with this prior resistance, right? At 220. So if this formation were to break bullish, one could target the 220 level as a potential resistance point. Now, as far as the trade setup on this, you know, do you want to buy right here? Maybe. If you're really confident, if they got news coming out or whatever, and you really think it's going to break out here, yeah, you could buy this resistance line. But you know, price action also could come all the way down here before moving higher and test this ice line as support again, and that wouldn't be like out of the question. If Bitcoin sells off here, you know, NFTs could tank. You know, it just kind of depends on what Bitcoin does. But if this does break bullish here, you know, you could see this, and then a retest, and then a move up to test the previous all-time high. And you know, on the eve of OpenSea and all that kind of stuff, if you're really bullish in the NFT space, this might be what's going to happen, right? And that would, if something like this were to play out, you're already seeing the makings of a cup, right? So you get this cup and then a little handle, and then it's off to the races. So I don't know if there's enough momentum. You know, there's interest in baked bots. So does it have enough momentum to get all the way down here? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, but one could be looking like it wouldn't be out of the question to go down there and test some more. So dust. Okay, I'll pull up dex lines. Let's look at dust. So Johnny, he made a pretty sick call on dust in DKS a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, and it's been ripping. It really has. It's been in an ascending channel. Got it. I accept. Yeah. So there's not a ton to analyze with dust, right? Because it's not very old. There's not a huge chart on it, but it is in an ascending channel, and you can find price targets when an asset's in an ascending channel. Come on, what the hell? Really, you don't want to do that? Okay. This widget is acting up a little bit on me. So yeah, so you have multiple lines of resistance, multiple points of resistance, and then you have, support, demand line. And so Johnny and I were talking about this in private, in DMs or whatever a couple days ago. And I think price action was kind of, I had drawn this ice line, this demand line based on these 2 points. And price action was kind of fumbling around over here. And I said, yeah, this could be I think he had bought somewhere, people were buying down here in like the dollar range or something, 80 cents. And, the move was up here. And that could still happen. That's what I was looking at. Do you want to be buying dust here? I mean, that's up to you, obviously. But now you're in the middle of the range. There's less and less justification for buying at this point. I mean, yeah, could it move from here? For sure, right? Anything can happen, man. Somebody can step in, a big whale come in and just buy a bunch, and this thing goes off, right? But like, the idea with TA is like finding points where the risk reward is ideal, and the risk reward, was yesterday, April 4th or April 3rd, down here when price was, bouncing off this demand line. Here, now you're getting to buying the breakout territory. Okay, cool. This breaks here, then it comes up, runs into resistance, and it gets sold off, and and then dumps, right? So $8 or $8, whatever this is. Yeah, $8 is definitely, the $7 range. Actually looking at this, $7 range is definitely possible, if this trades up here. But again, like, your risk reward on this already is kind of past. So I would wait to see what happens up here and, look for other assets in the time being. And that's without even looking at any like oscillators or anything. You really don't need to look at oscillators in this case. I mean, you can add them if you want. Get an idea of where RSI is, but I hate this color. So I should just do this. And delete this one. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, RSI is in the middle of the range. Again, you could take trades off this, but there's not much justification for a fresh long at this level. So there's dust. Let's look at Moshi heads, right? I think it's one I've been following for a minute now. And I think the 6 hour shows it best. So much price action here. I gotta zoom in. All right, cool. So just at first glance here, I mean, you can see it's putting in an inverted head and shoulders, right? You have the left shoulder, head, right shoulder. And so the psychology behind a pattern like this is you have bears, you have a lower low, So bears are selling. You have a lower low, and then you have a break of the lower low pattern. And then bears try to push the price down one more time, but the bulls step in here, and they can't. And then bulls step in and bring price action up. And so that's kind of the psychology behind an inverted head and shoulders. And then within that inverted head and shoulders, you're looking at a big cup and handle, right? So you could take this resistance line here. Where is this? So, you have resistance here and resistance here. Let me bring that down. And then to make out the handle, you have this falling wedge. And so again, you have this cup, and then you have the falling wedge, and you have price action springing, and now back jumping the creek, back testing the creek, and now we're consolidating. And the idea would be that price action slowly starts to drift up from here with the price target from top to bottom. Like this. And that does line up, looking left, that lines up with some prior resistances, This is slightly lower, but I mean, these are just estimates, right? So this could be a level to target for the bullish case, almost 6 sol for Moshi. And I think they have like pretty good news coming up. The other thing too, you can look at the RSI, and you can do the same kind of thing on the RSI and on the indicators. So you can come down here and you can draw this trend line, and you can see it's breaking out on the RSI too. So falling wedge on the RSI, we're breaking out, and now it's running up with constant levels of resistance here. So maybe it comes down to test here. We get another test of this lower range, but ultimately I do think that you see something like that, and then price action to follow that way. That's kind of what I'm thinking for Moshi. So we'll see. We'll see. Blacksmith. Wow. All right. This thing's pretty heavily bullish. Very bullish posturing right here. Excuse me. I can sip of this water. All right, cool. So again, not much price history, right? But it's nice and orderly if you break it down. So you can see it. And I mean, this is a very common, this is perfect. The last two charts we looked at, this is like perfect analysis on what they could be doing right now. You have a falling wedge. You have the low with RSI oversold. There's no divergence here to indicate seller exhaustion, so you're kind of flying blind. But, one could take a stab down here with let's say 20% position size, and then keep some in the ammunition in the tank for if another low prints in. That way you get some exposure at this low with RSI oversold. And, you could always add to your position on a back test here, So you had the low, you had the spring. The spring jumped the creek, back tested the spring, or back tested the creek, and now running to higher prices. And if one were to target, the target of the falling wedge is the top of the pattern. So if you were taking trades down here with the target to here, you know, there you have it. And it actually got a little bit more. Got a little bit more before selling off. And so again, you know, if you were trading this, you could take profit here. Then yeah, you know, you miss a little bit of this, but you get, what is this? That's a 55% move here, you know? So, you know, where are you gonna see those kind of gains in what? 4 days? 3 days? Yeah, 3 days. 28th through the 31st. So yeah, 4 days. And so that kind of played out, and now you have another broadening wedge pattern here. Again, you can identify this as it's happening. You know, and you could draw it like this. But then when you see this put in a higher low with bullish candles, and you start to see price action, you know, making higher lows and brushing up against this, the breakout here, you know, this could be a target. And again, that's not going to give you, you would have, if you were using this target, you would have sold early, but you're still in profit. I mean, you're still in a ton of profit. You could make a bunch of profit on this, and then leave the rest, let it ride, so you don't miss out on all this stuff, you know? And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 drives of bearish divergence. So this is a pretty bullish posturing right here, but you know, it's been straight bull for a while. So it wouldn't be, you know, out of question here. You know, you also have to consider the slope of this line. This is a very aggressive line. And so if you're looking at the divergence plays, which is an indicator of buyer exhaustion in this case, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 drives of bearish divergence. And you can plot them like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So like, this is one of those things that's like very subtle, but it keeps, you know, it can keep you in check from getting overly bullish, because yeah, this is like a crazy bullish posturing, but if there's no bulls left, you know, to launch this out of here, then I've seen these ascending triangles fail like all the time. And, you know, I can't get any closer to this, but this could also be, since this isn't quite a flat, it's, you know, you have this wick right here, which could make it, no, but not really. If you're using the candle bodies, one would chart it like this. And that could be a rising wedge with a target, you know, something like this. What else does that line up with? That lines up with this prior support, right? So you could drop that down there. And if one were bearish here, if one thinks that we would be, or that this asset would be topping, Blacksmith Labs, the trade setup would be something like this. And then over time, and again, this is like total crystal ball type shit, but this could set up something like this, you know. And again, it's crystal ball. You know, this could, you know, when you're using TA, you're looking for to try to figure out where price action is on the grand scheme of things. And so, you know, when you get too far ahead of things, like doing stuff like this, it's fun to entertain, but you really want to work with what is given to you. And something like this is fun to kind of fantasize, mentally masturbate about, whatever you want to do. But you know, at the end of the day, a lot has to happen before something like that. I mean, ideally, the first thing that you're looking for to happen is one of these ice lines break. You know, you want either this, you want to see one of these lines break. And in the TradingView app, these arrows don't appear. In this widget you have to use the trend line. But this gives you an idea. This is going to erase once I refresh this anyway, but this will give you an idea of kind of what could be happening on Blacksmith, right? The other thing too you could be looking out for is something like this. This would be like more of a bull case. You know, if the divergence doesn't play out. So, let me just start over again. So if one were to be like really bullish from here, oh, you know what? Let me get this other trend line. So the bullish case. This could be the bullish case, right? But almost always, like, this could be short-term bullish, but almost always I see these ascending Browning wedges break bearish eventually, right? But the thing is, and that's the one thing that a lot of people have to keep in mind with these analyses is the time frame, right? Because sometimes, oh, you were bearish and you thought it was gonna do this. Well, yeah, but it doesn't always go straight there, right? So you could be long-term bearish on this asset, but it still could rip, you know, 60% from here and do something like this. And that wouldn't mean you're wrong, right? You know, the idea on a setup like this is you would take trades on this blue demand line and you would sell the purple supply line, you know? So that would be the bullish case with a target of, you know, 25, 26 sold. I mean, I don't know enough about Blacksmith to make a comment on like, if I see it going down. You know, I could just identify levels and things. Fundamentally, projects change. And the thing with like NFT spaces, there's like no liquidity. So that's one of the hard things about doing TA and something like this is like you could post a chart that's like bearish and then some whale could come in and just be like, no, I'm just going to buy a bunch of these and like totally invalidate the TA. And you know, that's just the chance you're playing with when you're diving into the NFT, you know, shitcoin market, right? Is that it's really easy to kind of move around. So, you know, TA definitely works on assets better that have more volume. What's Sol doing? Yeah, like this was like another setup. I think I posted this in DKS yesterday. Or this morning, I mean. Or no, yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So there was this like channel going on. Something like this. And first off, this was happening. this smaller. Change the color so it's not so prominent. But, and this is the hourly chart. So this was kind of happening a few days ago, this pennant right here. And I charted this in DKS. Something like this. So something like this. And I guess maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. But yeah, like these pennant patterns, which it was in right here, they are 50-50. It's like a coin flip. So this was like the bullish target out of this pennant, which was like the 150 price level. And then the bearish target was down here. And so we were watching this, and I was commenting like, hey, you should be watching either this supply line breaking or the demand line breaking. And sure enough, the demand line broke, and we got a measured move, and it almost, again, this isn't like really that accurate. I should say it's not that it's not accurate. It's a guesstimate. It's an estimate. So, you're trying to get an idea. So you could take, the closer to the middle of the pennant that you take the measurement, I think the more accurate it is. So, if I were to have taken it, not the widest part here, but a little bit in, it would have been more accurate. And this actually fulfilled kind of the breakout of this pennant, which also lined up, I think I drew in this demand line too. And so this all kind of lined up, and RSI got oversold, and it was like prime candidate for a bounce. And I really didn't expect for it to go all the way back up and test this ice line today, but it did over time. And so, again, it bounced off this ice line, and now you're showing some signs of reaccumulation. So ideally, Solana bulls want to see price action kind of, consolidate it below this trend line and move up. And it should hold, bulls want to see it hold this low right here. Because if it can put in a low, and then a higher low, and then a higher low, and then a higher low, and then break the 136 region, that could set up, right up to the $150 range on Solana. And if we zoom out to the daily, this 150 range, if we pull this looking left, lines up to not only the apex of this symmetrical triangle here, but it also lines up with prior support and prior resistance. So logically, that would make sense as a price target coming out of this range. And again, daily could be a golden cross here that's watching. So, with the golden cross, you want to see the 50 EMA rise above the red 200. This comes out like this. And then you want to see price action kind of get sucked into this and then explode off. And that could be your justification, golden cross, and then that could set up a test. And look at, it's getting rejected here on this massive demand line. And I think I have this drawn out in a different chart, but this broadening wedge, if you take this, or maybe it was this one. I think it was this one. Yeah. So this broadening wedge formation on Solana is something I've been watching for a while. And in some of the other TA channels that I'm in, you know, this is what you want to see right here. Because you have this bottom mate, you have a low, another low, a slightly lower low, and well, you have the oscillators that are making higher lows. So this low, and then a slightly lower low, and then this making a low and a higher low, and this making a low and a higher low. That was your key. That this was strong support. Sellers were getting exhausted, and now you're getting an impulse here. And so, you know, there's some indecision going on right now, which is totally expected because you're, you know, getting resistance here. But if bulls can break this line, you know, the target could be the all-time high and likely beyond. And this is what I've been watching on Sol for a minute. Something like that. And again, you know, it's not going to like rocket straight up there. You know, price action takes a while. You could see, you know, something like this, break, and then it goes sideways some more, and then another break, and then go sideways some more, and then another break. You know, this stuff takes time. It takes time, and it's important to keep the time perspective. You know, if it were to be something like this, you know, you're not looking at a high. And again, this is all crystal ball stuff because who knows what path it's going to take. But, you know, if you could take this and then measure this here. You know, so it took 147 bars, so 147 days for it to go from, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take it from the high to the low? And so if we want to do this type, we could do something like this. And yeah, that lines up with something in the middle of summer. So that's what I'm looking on Sol. Of course, if Bitcoin decides to sell off, you know, Solana could get rejected here and come back down and, you know, find support somewhere down here. But that's definitely what I'm looking at for Sol in the short term. So what's LTC doing? So Litecoin is still putting in lower highs, which is a little bit concerning. Everything's still putting in lower highs. You know, everything we've looked at is still, nothing's really breaking out just yet. That's what I'm looking for. So we have lower high. Oh no, wait. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this. So we have lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So Litecoin's still in a downtrend. Lower high, lower low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Let's turn that off. But you do have this harmonic that's still in play. So you had this like bullish shark that's been playing out. And so while this was happening, you had the 886 right here. You got a little bit of a reaction. but you still keep making lower highs. So coming down here to the shark, there was no divergence or anything happening here. Now you're starting to get a little bit of divergence, which would have been your indicator for here. You have a low, type 1, and then an equal low, but the oscillator puts in a higher low. And it did it on both MACD and RSI. So that would be, I think, Class C divergence. And so, you know, this would have been a nice low risk scalp entry. You could have entered here, you know, with a tight stop loss below, you know, maybe a little bit of wiggle room. But what's concerning at this point is the first target in this harmonic is the B point. And if you shoot that out from here, you know, price action is getting rejected from it. And so it's important to not get too bullish here, because you haven't really confirmed an uptrend yet, right? You're working on it. You sprung, you jumped the creek, you're back testing the creek. But you're still back testing it. And really what you want to see on Litecoin is a break of 145. Because a break of 145 would mean it's putting in a higher high. You know, you want to see this level break. Your price action come up here, break this, come back down, back test it, and then start moving higher. So I wouldn't get too bullish on Litecoin until it breaks the 146 region. So. All right, cool. Well, that's a couple things I wanted to check out this morning. I got to run. I got some other stuff I got to do today. But I will try to do this maybe later this week at some other time. So I'll keep you guys posted. Until next time, peace.